What's going on, Precairo students? You, the student that's considering becoming a chiropractor, or you that's just hearing about chiropractic for the first time right now, I just want you to know we got a great guest today, somebody who's been in the profession for decades and has influenced the lives of many people around me. And I'm sure this is going to be a really on point and principled conversation about what chiropractic is, what it isn't, and if you want to become a chiropractor, you should gain a lot of clarity from this conversation. So, uh, can you just get us started by introducing yourself and letting us know where you're coming from, sir?
Steve Judson. I'm in Connecticut right now. Grew up in New York, live in Florida. So I have a pilot that flies me back and forth every week to work. We've got right now we've got 4 or 5 practices. Let me think. We got 5 practices up here in Connecticut, and right now we're opening some down in the Venice, Nokomis area as we speak. And life's awesome. I got 5 kids, anywhere from the age of 20 down to 10. They kick ass in life. They've been living clear since the day they're born, which means their atlas is clear and they're thriving. And I've got an awesome wife, um, which is, I believe that if people wake up and they have mentors and follow certain systems, they wake up and their lives could be amazing in 10, 20 years from now.
Mm-hmm. Talk about bringing a vision to reality. Is this something that you had started out thinking was possible when you first became a chiropractor, to have 5 practices and have a private pilot flying you around to get to where you need to be?
So when I say private pilot, I joke. So, it's Delta, Southwest, Avilo. Um, but the vision is on the table now of having my own plane. So that will happen. So was it the initial vision of all these practices? No, it wasn't. I've grown into it over the years. Did I ever think I would be commuting back and forth from Florida? It wasn't part of my initial vision. I've had goals and visions written out since I'm 13 years old and achieved every single one of them pretty much. And, as you wake up in life 10, 20 years later, you're on a path that you never even saw possible just by the choices you made 10, 15 years earlier. So, a lot of the stuff unraveled over the past couple of years and just happened by happenstance. The first practice I took over, a very good friend of mine wanted to retire. He fell in love with a girl. He wanted to move and he didn't want to manage the practice. And he was after me to do it. And, I'm more of a visionary, pal. Like, I'm not like the most organized bookkeeping, all that crap. But I brought a buddy of mine into the picture who is, and those are his strengths. His name's Dr. Mike Coster. And we've partnered up and we took over this practice. We bought the building, we've doubled the practice, what it was seeing before. And then that just turned into now interns would come into the office and say, I don't want to open my own practice. So we would open a practice with them. And then that's happened multiple times when now it's flourished into this whole thing where, these young kids are calling us and say, hey, I want to do this and I want to hit the ground running. Can you help us? So it's kind of manifested itself over time. But, as I tell people, you have to listen to your innate, you got to listen to your gut, like your spirit's going to talk to you and you're going to wake, you're not going to wake up. You're not going to be able to fall asleep. And this shit comes to you at 3 a.m. You'll get an idea that you just can't let go of and you just have to do it. And that's how this stuff has manifested itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. This whole project that brought us to this conversation came to me from my innate at 3 o'clock in the morning, just as you described. To be able to scale like that, though, to 5 practices, you have to have a real clear message. Can you talk about what your message is to the public on behalf of your practice and just how you represent chiropractic for yourself?
The big message is this, bro. Wake up, humans, right? And how's your atlas? That's it. So wake up, humans is started with how to wake up humans start. It started with me adjusting people in the office and they would come in a different person. They would literally wake up. They would wake up like, the things they would say is I feel different. And like, I feel like pressure's been lifted from me and I could sleep and I could see things now and I'm clear. And I'm just like, you're waking up, your spirit's waking up. You're connected now. You're clear. Your atlas is clear. You're clear. You're clear. Or people would come in bitching and complaining. And I would just be like, awesome. How's your atlas? You're subluxated. We got to get you clear. So that it really was, after years of traveling and speaking and all the biggest chiropractic events, which are awesome, and chiropractors getting together and getting fired up, I realized that a lot of offices just weren't blowing up and growing. Like, people weren't going back to their office fired up and connecting people. So I said, well, what if we took the message to the people? And people started coming up to me after I spoke and said, you need to write a book. You need to write a book. You need to write a book. And that just brought that vision of writing a book. Now, listen, pal, when I was a young kid, I wasn't good at reading. I was dyslexic. I had a bunch of concussions. They would skip over me in school because I was too slow reading, and kids would make fun of me, and I would beat them up in the courtyard. And then I just had to train and study and become a better reader. And I went on to become an English major in college. And now I've got 3 books out. So it's like, did I plan that? No, it just came into fruition. It was almost like God had this vision for me. So then Wake Up Humans came out, and now that's become the movement. Wake Up Humans has grown from a book to literally a movement to educate people as to how's your atlas. So I bought a boat, never had a boat in my life, in Florida. I went in Rome, right? I become a fisherman. Me and my son and kid, we got fishing, we're killing it. But I put Wake Up Humans logo, this wolf guy you see over here, on the side of the boat. So what happens to every dock I pull into? That is awesome. I love that. What does that mean? Live with passion, live clear, live free. I love it. What does that mean? Right? You want to live your life full of love and passion and compassion, and you want to live free. You don't want people telling you what to do and shutting you down and doping you up and throwing your kids on drugs and unnecessary medications. And you do it by living clear, which means you tap into that in your body, which heals, which connects you, which is making you tick, which is your central nervous system that controls every cell, tissue, organ in your body. And your brainstem controls that, which is protected by your atlas. So if your atlas is out of alignment, subluxated, you can't live with passion and you can't live free, because now you're a slave within yourself. And they're like, holy shit, I want some. So now it's turned into, my girls have set up a whole Shopify account with, hats and shirts. And, to me, it's like, it's cool. Like, you look at Lions Not Sheep and all these things that are awesome movements that people are like, roar, right? Be free, but they're subluxated, bro. And if you're subluxated, it's the Titanic. It's a matter of time before you wake up and your body's shutting down. So chiropractic has the potential right now, especially with everything going on in the world, to wake people up. Wake people up to the principle of what it means to live from above down, inside out, to live with a clear atlas, and their potential is unlimited. They'll be able to have conversations like this where 10, 15, 20 years later, they're doing things they never thought they would do, because their innate is talking to them at 3 a.m, and their gut is telling them, do this, don't do that, don't eat that shit, go ahead and buy that building, invest in that, you can do it. And they got the balls and the clarity to do it because they're clear. They're not intoxicated from within.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about the training you went through to kind of develop yourself into, maybe that initial version with your first practice? And I'm imagining you're not in your first practice now. So like, just talk about the evolution, because you didn't start from where you're at right now. And the audience for this conversation is really somebody who's just either thinking about going to chiropractic school, never heard of chiropractic before, or is just getting into chiropractic school.
So anyone who's in chiropractic, starting school, thinking about school, they need to go to the conference Dynamic Essentials and just never miss it. And it's where I healed, or I started healing and found my healing. And I got a message of principle and healing and compassion and love, and realized how, the shit I was going through. And, unless I took care of me, I wasn't going to be successful. No one ever taught me systems and how to do it day 1 and day 2. I just came out a freaking roaring lion on a mission, wanting to save the world, and we're doing it. And as I went, I had to learn how to do x-rays and how to do day 1 and how to do day 2. Now you can learn all that. There's other chiropractors that'll teach you all that stuff while you're in school. But to find your passion and purpose and why you're doing this thing, chiropractic, why God chose you to be a chiropractor and serve the masses, that's where the magic happens. So for me, I ended up by accident, very first quarter of school, someone invited me to DE. None of my buddies wanted to go. They wanted to go party. It was the end of the quarter. And something in my gut was like, go, go, go. And I said, guys, I'll meet you out later. I'm going to go check it out. And it ripped me open. I mean, that first meeting was like, And what ripped me open is I learned about Clearview Sanitarium, which was a chiropractic psychiatric hospital that BJ Palmer had that no one in my lifetime told me about. And I realized this is why I'm going to be a chiropractor, because I was never supposed to get into chiropractic school. I was never supposed to pass those pre-med classes because I wasn't good scientifically. And I was never supposed to pass organic chem. So I just didn't sleep. I studied, I brainwashed myself, passed the test, and then forgot it all 5 minutes later. And I woke up at DE, and it literally was, if anyone reads the book, and my older brother had sustained a neck injury playing football, and it destroyed his life. He was never the same again. He ended up in a psychiatric hospital. He was at an Ivy League school, amazing athlete, and he lost it all in one neck injury. And not one person referred us to a chiropractor. And I know that my entire family's life would have been different if my brother was referred to a chiropractor that could have cleared out his atlas. And I found out too late. There's a system already got a hold of him, doped him up, drugged him up. Once some of these drugs mess up your brain, and it pisses me off to this day because our profession just, they failed me. So I had to make a mission right there that first quarter that I was this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to learn this stuff, and I'm going to get this message to the world. And I never missed a DE. I created relationships with, people that were in practice 20, 30, 40 years, and I would ask them questions. I hardly slept. I just studied our philosophy. I read all the green books, and just wanted to soak all this stuff up, because my whole thing was, how does this work on people? And why is no one telling the story? Why aren't we blowing this shit up? You get these stupid actors that are like man of the year, and they like, I don't know, saved a chicken. And you've got a guy like D.D. Palmer who just created this profession, B.J. Palmer who developed the profession, Sid Williams who saved the profession. How come these guys aren't mentioned? And you come to my office and you can meet thousands of people who got off antidepressants, anxiety pills. They were deaf, they could hear. They had all kinds of stuff, and their body healed it. And it wasn't me healing it. And I never claimed to heal it. It just happened because the body healed it. So I always said, how come? And now I said, all right, well, I'll do it. I'll write the book, which has turned into, Atlas Adjusted is a book that every student should read, because it gives it from a student perspective, and every doctor in practice. And some people, I piss them off in it, because where I come from, it's either chiropractic or it's not, right? You come in, you get checked for subluxation, you lay on a table. If you're clear, you're good. If you need to be adjusted, perfect. But we're not doing physical therapy, weight loss, cold lasers, none of that bullshit. Doesn't mean it's not good for people, but I refer out to physical therapy for that. I had a guy today who's been watching YouTube videos. He wants me to pull on his ankles. Like, bro, that's bullshit. They're doing that for YouTube. I'm not going to have your wife pull on your ankle. Just have her grab the shit and pull it. There's no science behind it, So it's because the problem is we're taking the focus off the primary. And that's setting people free by clearing out subluxation. And when you can get like I'm fired up right now, and I've been doing this over 20 years, it's like you got to find that passion and your why. And you do it at places like DE, and listening to people, talking to people, surrounding yourself with people that have been doing it a long time who are successful. Now, here's what I'm going to tell you. There's a lot of people that are perceived to be successful. They've got this phone and this Instagram, and these guys are sexy with videos, whatever. Awesome. Show up to their house, show up to their practice, show up on a Monday and just say, hey, I just wanted to say hi. Can I hang out for a little bit? And some of them will say no, because there's nobody coming in the office. But wait a minute, you were rocking it on YouTube. You were rocking it on Instagram. It's a freaking lie. It's all smoke screens, and students are getting hurt by it because now they're selling them into programs and everything. And that's where they're making their real money. Come to my webinar, come join my program, do this. Well, I say that's awesome. But go to dinner with him or her and their spouse. Go hang out at their house and see how they interact with their kids if they're still married, right? Hang out with them on Saturday night and see what's going on. Like, you got to surround yourself with congruent, principled people that are actually doing it. And when you find those people, and there's not going to be a lot of them, you got to latch on to them. Because I learned by talking to people and asking questions, because there was guys I talked to like Sigafus and Santo and Sid Williams and all these guys that would say things to me that saved me 10 years in practice. I say, hey, Doc, what about this? No, don't ever do that. I did that. It was a shit show. Okay, I won't do it. So I don't
Mhm.
know, bro. You got me fired up. It's early here. Good job, pal.
Doesn't take much.
Mm.
What's your life like day to day these days? Obviously, it's different than it was when you first started out. But what's a day in the life of a chiropractor look like?
Well, let's talk about starting practice, right? So I love, again, social media. These kids are, $200,000 opening these practices that are gorgeous. And I'm like, all right, you better crush it, man. My first office space, me and my wife had no money. We had a baby, was 400 square feet. It was a proverbial dump, but I didn't care. It's all we had. And I had my passion. And then in about a year, we moved into about 1,000 square feet. And then 3 years later, I bought a 10,000 square foot building. So, um, it was a progression that I knew would happen. It was part of my goals. It was part of my vision. Early on, I would get up at 4 in the morning. I'd go to the 400 square foot office and I would sit on the floor and the couch or whatever, and I would meditate and I would visualize people coming in, and I would see babies coming in, kids throwing up pills, things that I saw on mission trips. I did a lot of mission trips, and I visualized what I wanted my space to look like. And I would play a song, Let It Rain by Michael W. Smith, and I would run it on repeat until I got into a state of tears that I knew I was connected. I was spiritually connected and I was there. And then I would go to the gym and I would work out, shower up, go to the office and start taking care of people. And, and then over time that shifted as I started having kids. I wasn't getting up at 4 in the morning. And then I got lazy and I wasn't getting up at 5 or 6 in the morning. I was just like a family man. And now it's revolved back to I'm up at 5 in the morning. I'm back to Let It Rain. I'm back to my basics because I've kind of re-evolved my life. I lost a bit of myself in the process building a business, right? There was a lot of things that came at me that I had no idea about. I got 5 kids. My kids are athletic. They're busy. I had to figure out how to bring an associate doctor, which I hate the word associate, but I had to bring help in to help me so I could go see my kids' games or leave the office early Thursday night or not work Saturdays because my kids were national soccer players, et cetera. And I had to just go do this on the fly. And I got to the point where I wasn't taking fully care of myself, bro. And I put on about 95 pounds in the process. I wasn't even, and I'm a big dude, so I was able to carry it, and I thought I was good until about a year ago, Super Bowl Sunday. I said enough, and I've dropped 90 pounds since, and I got back to my basics where I'm up at 5 in the morning. I'm at the gym. I work out every night after dinner. Michael W. Smith's blaring while I'm in the shower because I got to move quick. In the shower, and I do the 49 breaths twice a day, which is a meditation Dr. Sid taught us. Just simple. And it's just, you got to put me first in my relationship with my spirit and why I'm doing it. And then my family's just awesome rocking it. So, you got to have the system, the routine. There's plenty of people out there on YouTube that'll share morning routines. They share eating habits. I had to simplify my eating. Right now, I'm just carnivore. It's just simple for me. I don't have to think. I threw a porterhouse steak on the thing at lunchtime yesterday, and everyone's like, that smells good. And just mange it, bro. And I'm pumped walking out on the floor for the 3 o'clock shift. So, and I just have to keep it simple, and you can't think too much. I got rid of most of my clothes. I have just a couple things to choose from. I got very little decisions to make when it comes to what I'm eating, what's my workout going to be for the day, what time am I going to bed. I try to get into bed every night at 10 o'clock, and I say try because like last night I was on a conference call to 11:30. It just went on and on and on. So you just adapt.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. What kinds of goals do you have right now for this movement you've created?
So I want to be seeing 100,000 visits a week. That's my goal. 100,000 visits of pure chiropractic. How's your atlas? Humans are waking up. And what that's looking like is we're going to be creating Wake Up Humans offices where people are educating through the book, because one of the biggest things that happened through the whole shutdown is guys started giving out the book because they couldn't do orientations anymore. And what we saw is they would give the book to every new patient, and then they started referring everybody. And it was bringing in a different style of patient. It wasn't just bringing in a sciatic patient. It was people that wanted a greater expression of life. And we saw offices double, triple during this time. So that opened my mindset because I was never one on selling myself or selling anything. It just organically happened because people were calling me terrified. And I said, well, here's what I did. I started doing videos. I started doing podcasts. I started educating people. I said, well, I could either complain about it or I could use these things, which was hard for me because it's like, I used to make fun of people who took selfies. I'm like, you're an ass. What is that? So I said, the hell with it. I started turning my phone around, started educating people. This morning coming here, I did a Facebook Live for my patients. They thrive off that. It's giving them hope because it's rainy and cold here. And I'm like, be grateful that you're alive. Be grateful you can complain about it. Be grateful. How's your atlas? And make sure your atlas is clear. So it always ties back to how's your atlas. So with that vision, what's happening now is what I noticed with our profession. These guys would bring in associates, work them like a dog, just work them like a dog, not pay them a lot of money. And then the relationship falls apart. And then the kid goes off and bitches and moans. And then they struggle for like 5-6 years trying to figure life out. So what we're doing now is we're bringing them in, training them up. We put them in practice. And then I'm there mentoring them, coaching them, helping them, pumping them. And we have all our Wake Up Humans. We're making all Wake Up Humans posters. We're redesigning everything where it's brainwashing society that when they see this wolf, it's like the gym shark, right? When you see gym shark, you know what it is. And if you study gym shark, the kid just wanted to make a better t-shirt to work out in. And now I go to the gym and I see these kids walking around with this outline of a shark. And I'm like, I'll say to them, what does that mean to you? Oh, it's cool. What does it mean though? What does it do for you? What does it do for your life? I don't know. Right. And then I say, look at this wolf. Go listen to episode 154 on Wake Up Humans. They go listen and they go, that is so cool. I had no idea. But I said, it's about you, because now it explains about getting clear in your atlas that if you start getting adjusted now at a young age, your life is going to be much better, much healthier, more vibrant. So it's leading them always back to that message. So the vision now is that open practices, which has happened organically with this whole move with Florida. I'm now down in this area that I'm living in Venice, and there's no one blowing it up. So we're going to open a practice. I've picked out a couple spots and I've got about 5 locations. It's now just getting docs in, training them, and then we're going to kill it and they're going to kill it and they're going to make a shitload of money and get out of debt and be happy, and they'll never be alone. And it's going to be a Wake Up Humans office. So, that's where it's going. And it's freaking awesome, pal.
What type of support are you getting from the profession? It sounds like you're really trying to step out and represent at a higher level. The profession is obviously very fragmented, but this is a 2-part question. If that's not a great question for you to go deep on, then the second question is like, what are you looking for in these new graduating chiropractors that you want in your offices that are on point and somebody that you want to build with?
Give me the guy or girl who just has a big heart and wants to help people. If the person comes in and it's, well, how much time do I get off? How much money am I making? Is there a 401k? Right? Which the answer is yes to all of it. But if that's the intention, you got the wrong guy. There's people that'll scoop you up to do it. Right? But if listen, I want to do this, but I don't want to deal with the back end stuff. That's what I'm hearing from a lot of these kids, which is why this is happening. They don't want to deal with the marketing. They don't want to deal with the bookkeeping. They don't want to deal with the business, which is understandable, because I just read a study that 75 to 80% of the doctors in practice should not be running their own practice. Like, that's the biggest struggle, is learning to run a business, which is tough for some people. For other people, they thrive on it. They love it. And I tell any kid, if you have the right heart and passion, you could do it on your own. I've had guys come to me that want to do this, and I say, you should do it on your own. You have everything it takes to do it on your own. Go crush it, right? Because, for someone like me, I never wanted to be working for somebody. So we're taking out that working for somebody, and someone who has a big heart and just wants to serve, and then wants to learn to become an awesome, amazing adjuster, because that's key. And now develop that and then see a lot of people. And that's what I look for in the person, because I could develop all the other stuff. I'm good at like finding your limitations. Let's crack it open. Let's heal it. Right? This is what the backpack's all about, right? And once you're able to shed your husks and shed the stuff that's going to slow you down, now when you step into an office space, you're going to be the higher energy that all these patients need. You're not showing up with junk. You're not waiting for Friday night or Saturday night and you can't wait to go out to the brewery to get shit faced, because you're going to say, I'm a healer, man. I got to help people. I got to take care of myself. And that's the place I want to get students to realize the potential they have, and especially with this art called chiropractic. And I think the intention is really there with the profession. But what I see happen is, a big dog gets out there, they start a coaching program, they coach you, and they're your best friend as long as you're paying them every month, which is nice. They're helping you. But then this something becomes fragmented, and then the relationship breaks up. And then what happens is the practice falls apart because now they're mad at the person, right? They lost the message, which is not fair to the coach or mentor, right? And then things just get ugly. And then they'll hear me speak at an event and come up to me afterward crying and say, and I'm like, look, it's not his or her fault. It's just where you're at in your life. And you've got to get to your core first, your core values, who you are. And once you connect to that, there's no one can trip you up, because now you're on a mission. Now you've got passion for people. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then no matter what happens, rain, snow, you find your mother dead on the floor, which I did. I still had to go back and take care of people. I didn't shut down for 10 days to mourn. I had to lose myself in service, right? And I would cry in the office, and patients would hug me, and I was vulnerable. And that's not easy for a tough guy. But I also realized it's part of the process that I learned from some of my mentors, that I'm not going to hide it, because you hide it and bury it, it's going to catch you someday. And that's why I ended up riding the backpack, is because that's what I started seeing in thousands of people, and go to these events, and you sit there and you listen to, the speakers and everything, and they're awesome. And then you get up there and I just do my thing. I just show up and read the energy of the room, and innate just goes. And afterward, the conversations that I have, I just realize our profession's got to do better. Like all the leaders need to come together, and we need to help serve bigger within the profession if we're going to save the profession.
Yeah, you mentioned Sid Williams saved the profession. Obviously, once you save it once doesn't mean it's forever saved. So what's it going to take for chiropractic to really get adjusted back to alignment and really reach its potential as what it can be for the world?
So these kids got to find their purpose. Why are you a chiropractor? I want to make money. Well, that kid's never going to make money. I'll tell you right now, right? Or they're looking for significance because they want to be a doctor. You're screwed. I've seen it over and over again, and it bothers me. So chiropractic's in a great place right now. I don't think people realize that. Chiropractic is in an absolutely amazing place. Society is more ready for what we have now than ever. What students have to do is become masters of the art of adjusting. They have to pick a technique or techniques that they know how to clear out the atlas and just love on the spine, right? They need to be in school just doing that. They also need to own the philosophy, which is the 33 principles. What do they mean? What is this universal intelligence? What is innate intelligence? They need to argue with each other. Is universal intelligence God? Well, I'm an atheist, so what does that mean? And they need to have those conversations, because the more you have them, your answer is going to come to you. It doesn't have to come from me saying, this is what I'm telling you it is, because that's not sustainable. You have to discover it for yourself. You have to get beat up and just, to get tough, you got to get beat up a little bit. And those conversations, we used to have our groups in chiropractic school that Saturday night, we'd hang out at my house and just, all right, you walk into a room and there's 20 people sitting there and they say, hey, what's this chiropractic stuff? What are you going to do? Well, I learned Houston Control, the 5 circles, and then years later, I created the Z of a very complicated explanation of what chiropractic is and what to expect. And I created videos of those. They're on my YouTube channel as well, that I did during COVID, so we could email it and text it to patients to help them understand what it is we do. But I drew that on thousands of napkins and placemats going through chiropractic school. And when I started practice, that if a waitress came up and I said, hey, who's your chiropractor? Oh, I don't have one. I've never had neck pain. Oh, well, it's more than that. Do you want to hear something? Sure. And I would do Houston Control and explain the brain stem and the 450 million nerve fibers and how it affects your life. And it took me a minute and a half to do. And they were like, holy cow, I never knew that. Where's your office? Where's your office? And I just was a broken record. Like my mission, You know, if I got invited to a party and there's some dude standing there, like I didn't give a shit about the party, but I would ask him, you know, what kind of work you do? And he would tell me. And then what's he going to say to me? What do you do? Can of worms, brother. Now we're talking chiropractic. Well, I've never had chiropractic. I went once. Awesome. How come you stopped? Well, I was good. Really, it was good. And then I would verbalize the brain stem, and I would verbalize performance in the nervous system. And they were like, and then you also want to work on together, like how you're communicating. A lot of communication is your passion. So if you don't feel it in here and you're talking like this and you're like, and then this thing called you lost them. You got to own it as to why you want that person on your table. And it can't be to make $65. It has to be to transform their life so he's a better father, so he's better to his wife, so he doesn't mess up his kids. And that's the transition, because if he's a guy that looks sexy at a party and I see him getting shit-faced, I also know what his kids are going to see when he goes home, what he's going to wake up like in the morning. His son wants to play ball and he's not feeling well. Now he's irritated, talking smack to his kid. Now his son's pissed off at him. He doesn't even know it, all because his atlas is subluxated. And it's going to stay subluxated because I didn't have the balls to talk to him.
All right, quick sidebar. Imagine that Precairo clubs are popping up all over the country. How do these clubs operate, just in a creative reflection from you of if you were coordinating how these clubs function, what the students are up to, how they're reaching their campuses, how they're connected to the local offices, how we're really building these connections between our offices near college campuses or high school campuses, maybe getting chiropractors onto college campuses, like in their health centers or whatever the places that students go when they're looking for help. What's that look like in your eyes?
So first off, a young girl, let's say she's 22 years old, walks into the club for the first time and sits in the back of the room, and you have your speech or thing you're going to share, and you're just going to talk at her. There's the magic. If she doesn't feel comfortable or like what she hears that one time, she's never coming back. So you have to have a system of connecting with her, right? And let's learn about her and let's build a relationship and the value by her being in that room, part of that club. What could it do for her life? Step number one. Okay. Because something made her walk in that room. Oh, my friend told me about it. Awesome. Who are you? How long have you been in school? Why are you in school? And then getting them to figure out why they're there. Now it's, what is your outcome? No matter what you do in life, any conversation, anything you're going to go in the front of that room for that hour, what's the outcome of that meeting? What do you want them to walk away with? Otherwise, it's going to just turn into like, hey, everyone just crush it. And then they're like, all right, I didn't learn anything. So you got to have systems, right? So we need to study our philosophy. Where are you going to study the philosophy from? Stevenson's textbook, freshman, sophomore, junior, senior text, tells it all. Okay. They got to own it. They got to own our philosophy. They need to understand, what is this thing, innate intelligence? They need to argue about it because it's such a thing like, well, you don't see it. What is it? It seems like, is it a spiritual thing? Is it, it's just, what is it? What is universal intelligence? What's the major premise? Number one, the major premise should be able to roll off their tongue. What's principle number 6? Time, right? They need to explain that to patients. What number does subluxation, nerve interference show up at? Why isn't it at the beginning? Why is it so far down? Why is all this stuff? Why did they do this? Those are the conversations. Then, how am I going to deliver it? Like, when you start putting your hands on people, or if a mom hands you a baby, can you do it? Can you tell if that child's subluxated? And can you tell if they're clear? Can you, more importantly, tell not to adjust them? They don't need it today. Okay. Do you understand that it doesn't matter? That kid, I've held kids that were having grand mal seizures in my hands, and I was able to adjust them and know I'm helping this kid and I'm not freaking out. I got this. Okay. Then how you going to explain that to somebody? You're on an elevator, the proverbial 30-second ride. How you going to explain it to someone? And just do it. And people are going to be awkward. They don't want to be like on the spot. but you've got to get these kids to the point where they don't give a shit what anybody thinks. You could stand in line at a store with another chiropractor, and they'll say, they start lowering their voice when they mention the word chiropractic. I'm sure you've seen that. And I'll say, why are you whispering chiropractic? Because they're afraid of someone saying, oh, I don't believe in that stuff. You guys are crazy. And I'll say, yeah, I agree with you. Why do you think that way? Let me hear your story. Because everybody has a story, right? We're fighting it too much trying to prove chiropractic. We don't have to prove anything. It's been around over 125 years. Name one drug, pill, potion, lotion that's been researched over 125 years on human beings. Not a guinea pig or a rat or something in a lab. Chiropractic's the longest researched medical art in the world, outside of, people say acupuncture and massage. I get all that, guys. But chiropractic, what you're part of, how are you going to deliver it? And now how are you going to share it? Not sell it, not market it, but share it. Because now it all comes down to how can you add value to your community? How am I going to do that? And then when you talk about getting into chiropractic offices, how are you going to add value to that chiropractor's office? And it's going to be by telling the story and driving patients to his office or her office. So you want to create events and things and just go wild because you got nothing to lose. If you came to me and say, hey, Judson, we want to get you 100 new patients, can you help us do it? Like we want to experiment and we're going to sit down and come down with a jam. I'll say, yeah, let's have fun. Let's spread the word. You go do it for 2-3 years while you're in school. And now you move across the country and open your own practice. Guess what you've been doing? You've been learning to communicate the message to people that's going to bring them to you. You've honed in your communication skills. So you could, there's chiropractors out there, bro, that are stuck at 100 visits a week, 150 visits a week. They could use help, right? A lot of them don't have the passion and everything, like you started this communication because it's a passion inside of you that many of them don't have. Many of them are tired and burned out. If you go and say, hey, we got this group at school, we want to bring 200 patients to your office. Are you open to that? And now their style of chiropractic. And I would tell you to make sure it's pure chiropractic. No bullshit in the office, nothing, chiropractic. And say, we'll do it for free. Have you read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill? How much did he get paid to work for him? 0. He just went and did it for nothing. And look at that book and look how it's transformed people's lives. That's another book everybody should read, by the way. So, and Dr. Sid was best friends with him. And then what was the other question you asked about adding value to the chiropractor's life?
Well, just like if we get chiropractic onto college campuses, what does that look like? How does that work? Just because...
Well, let me ask you this. Have you read Wake Up Humans and Atlas Adjusted?
Me? No. I've got Wake Up Humans. I've read Wake Up Humans. I haven't read Atlas Adjusted. I didn't even know you had a second. You said 3 books, Backpack and Atlas Adjusted?
Backpack's my newest one that just came out.
Okay.
So read Wake Up Humans. Read Atlas Adjusted. I would guarantee you give that to the majority of the students and they read that, their whole mind's going to shift. Like it's going to save you tons of conversations and stuff, right? So one of the things you said, what could I see? Is your movement becomes, our club is going to spread this Wake Up Humans message, which is how's your Atlas? It's very simple, right? We get these kids on doing podcasts with me, educating, talking, that they're now sharing with people all over the country, right? It's very simplified. And, if you read the books and you're like, this is bullshit, I want to do it differently, 100%. But if it resonates, then you become part of the movement to spread the word because the message is very simple and it's how's your Atlas? I just don't know how it gets any more simpler than that. It's not, how's your L5 and right hip, whatever, which that stuff's important. But the game changer for society, if we could get people waking up and saying, I just don't feel right, man. And the husband goes, how's your Atlas? Go get your Atlas checked. We'll transform the world, bro. We'll transform society and people will wake up differently. So I would open up to that opportunity and say, what about that? What if, I send a box of shirts with Wake Up Humans on it and these kids are walking all over town with it and people are like, what is that? What is that? What is that? What is that? Now it's forcing them to talk the message, right? Because you don't want to walk in anywhere with like Budweiser shirts. What are you teaching them? You should be a billboard for chiropractic, right? Mm-hmm. You get out, how's your Atlas? ? Ask me about what this is. And they walk around and people are saying, all right, you got me. What is it? Bro, you watch what happens. You watch what happens to those students and those kids. Then you come together in your group and say, how did everybody do? Where did you get in trouble? Where did you have an issue? You know, who gave you a hard time? I don't want to hear about everyone who got it and is fired up or whatever, because what I would tell you is also the outcome is going to be have an office or 2 or 3 that you're referring them to. And that's where you can add value to these chiropractors. And these guys are going to go, holy shit, right? And then those offices are handing out the book and educating them. And now a whole family's coming in for care. And you take a guy from 150 a week to 500 a week in 6 months. What does that do for the profession?
Extends the reach. It makes more impact on the community that the office is in and the people in the community. And
transforms it.
Yeah.
You know, because the business side of it is you're coming out with a lot of, have you paid off your student loans yet? Personally?
Long story short, that's not my goal. Personally. Like I bought a house in the process of buying the office that the building that I practice out of, and I'm on public service loan forgiveness. So I have a nonprofit where I work for myself, just doing community work like I would normally do. And theoretically, after 10 years, my loans will be forgiven. We'll see if that happens. But
you're a real estate investor now, right? You own your own building. It's like, these are the things these kids need to learn. I tell them all when they get in practice, start with your initial office, but then buy a building. One of the greatest things you could do. So these things about now teaching them business, and what if that loan's not forgiven? I know people that have been in practice 20 years still have their student loans, and their $100,000 loans now $500,000 loan. That's insane. So you got to have those conversations, and it's really just what's the outcome and how can you add value to these kids' lives? So there's a lot there, bro.
Yeah. I think if I felt more pressure internally to pay that loan off, or if I felt like it was like something that was a priority for me, then that would be my goal. I would have already paid it off by now, but it's never really been something that gets me excited to have no student loan, because there's good debt and bad debt. I look at that as being good debt because I have to pay like $150 a month for it, but it's allowed me to do what I love. So it's
cash flow. I mean, there's a whole can of worms there too, bro. And this is the conversations that need to be happening with these kids, because they're not happening, And I see it in guys where now they've got 3 kids and, they got $2.5 million debt. None of it's an asset, and that's a tough one. But they get out of it. We help them get out of it, and we teach them principles where now they dial it in. And within a couple of years, I mean, we got a guy who was, well over $1 million in debt, and within 5 years, he's now a multimillionaire just by applying these principles, right? That he never knew about. So, and one person.
I mean, my personal truth is that the individuals that find you and get an opportunity to work with you, they had this inner drive within them. They were connected to their own innate. That's not to use the word lowest common denominator, but if we go to like, your team is only as strong as your weakest link. We have a lot of weak links graduating. We have a lot of weak links coming in, and there's been talk for decades of there needing to be a parallel curriculum, and that's where DE fits in, and a number of other outlets that people can go and get dipped and bathed in the mindset and the passion and connect with mentors, as you were saying. But in reality, we need a structure so that when they leave DE, and I know Band of Brothers, I've been on the calls, I've definitely utilized resources that are available, but just making that more of a, dare I say, like student culture mainstream kind of activity, but like making there be a dominant narrative within the student body mindset that, hey, I need to go after class to get my mind back on chiropractic, throughout the whole process.
One of the things I've seen through the years is, like you think of the DE doctors who are busy dudes and girls, right? So, we've had Band of Brothers clubs. You get like those fired up students. They start a club on campus, but then they all graduate. And then they never had, and I'm not out there managing a club on campus. I got a busy life. I have 8 businesses and 5 kids. It's like, they got to want it. Right. So, but I also realize there's got to be a better way to do it. There's got to be a way to make it sustainable. So it is something that's now continuing. And all these kids that were going to those clubs are killing it. They're doing great in practice. You know, we hung out at DE, we spoke, they worked, we still text and talk, and it worked out well for them. The problem is when they moved on, it came time to graduate. It was about them. It was now survival, and there was no succession. So that's the thing that I know has to be fixed. And, you know, a guy like me is more the visionary. Let's go ahead and blow it up. But I'm not the guy that's going to babysit and sit over it and look at it. We need to develop that in our profession, that we can create that system, that it is sustainable. You know, and I spoke at a school here in Connecticut, a chiropractic school, and I'm not allowed on campus anymore. And I'm looking at these students in there, and one of the head guys on campus was in there bullying the students, and they were afraid to ask me questions. And he would look at them, and I called him out in the middle of the room, and he got pissed and walked away. And I'm looking at these young kids, and I'm thinking of my kids. And I'm like, guys, if you listen to him who failed in practice, and now he's telling you shouldn't be adjusting kids, there's no such thing as subluxation, this innate is voodoo, and you need to practice evidence-based medicine, is what he says. And the way I pissed him off is I said, I practice evidence-based chiropractic. I adjust my people, they heal and get better, and that's all the evidence I need. And he slammed his computer and got pissed. And I'm like, we're either going to fight right now or you're walking out. He walked out. But I felt bad for the kids. Like, they were kids. You know, I'm old enough now to say they're kids. And I'm imagining my daughter sitting there who's accruing debt. And right now I could see her face, and I don't know her name. And it's like, where is she now? Where is that poor girl? Is she practicing? Is she? And that bothers me, man. That bothers me. So, like, you know, what you're touching upon about putting a system into the schools, and you're out in California. So right now, Life West, you've got amazing leadership there. You know, these kids have Ron Oberstein there, who was very, very successful. They need to get to know him. You know, they got a kid in there right now, Nolan, who's getting ready to graduate, who's on fire. He's been flying out to DE for years, and he's traveling the country now, picking a spot to practice, you know, and he's not going to go work in someone's office. The kid is fired up, but he builds relationships with people. So these kids need to, like Ron Oberstein, just walk in and say, hey, Steve Judson told me I should come in and say hi. And there's probably something I could learn from you. And especially the females, like, get around his wife. She's a powerhouse. She's amazing. Like, they've done amazing things. And you never know what one conversation could happen with people that just wakes you up or shifts your consciousness. And now it's like they could turn to you and say, hey, man, I need help. Or how can we do this? Or I want to be part of this, and I want to help. And now you realize, all right, you're in ninth quarter, and you've got this first, second quarter person, and you're going to want them to carry on the message when you leave. And then we've got the next person, and the next, it just keeps that energy flowing. That's how we're going to, that's the next level.
Mm-hmm. And I was that student in a classroom similar to the Connecticut school. You know, I started at that to get to where I am now. And I graduated Life West. I didn't start there. It took me flying to a seminar in my first or second quarter, just being curious to get exposure. And here I am. But it's not the common path. And I felt really sorry for my students at my previous school that I started at, that they would never get exposure to it.
Right.
They had no green books on the campus. They had no chiropractic philosophy being talked about. And that guy that you talked about in the classroom, who was basically saying chiropractic is BS or subluxation is a historical concept, that was the same message that I heard my first and second semester at the school I started at. So that's still happening. It still continues. And my thought is, if we can get them before they go to chiropractic school, it really doesn't matter what school they go to. They're going to know the difference between, you know, when they hear it, they're going to know the difference. Oh, I chose this school for the location, and it's clearly not doing what I thought chiropractic was, or it's not teaching me what I thought chiropractic was. So
it's funny you say that. So I was out to dinner with Dr. Mike, who's my partner, and he said, you know, because he's got a daughter who just got in college. And when our kids go to college, we're looking for a chiropractor in the area. And depending on where they go, it's like you could be in trouble. And so he said, you know, we should open a practice, and this is what we're going to do. This is part of the new vision, outside of every major college. Just start picking colleges and just open a practice and start serving the students. Start getting in on campus and educating and talking to them. And it's brilliant because it's exactly what you're saying, because it's getting to them before they're even in chiropractic school, or they were thinking. I mean, I've got, I don't know, 5 kids right now that are patients that are now couple of them are in chiropractic school. Now their friends are all going to chiropractic school, and they've been coming here and they've had their life changed. Now they're fired up. They understand chiropractic. So what you're saying is absolutely brilliant. I see where you're going with it. It's now transitioning. It's kind of like I took it from going to the seminars and the chiropractors, we pump each other up, to now taking it out to society, the world, to now let's hone it in on the students, the kids, to then help them understand it. So they could go off and become a medical doctor or a nurse, but they understand these principles. They're allies. That's where the magic happens. You know,
Exactly.
people say to me, all your kids could be chiropractors. I'm like, no, I hope one becomes a pediatrician. I hope one becomes an orthopedic, because they've got this lifestyle. When people come to them, what do you think is going to happen to that person's life? They're going to have an amazing surgeon who's going to then refer them to chiropractic to say, you need to stay off drugs and take care of yourself. Like, how powerful is that, bro? And then we got kids that are senators, a freaking president, vice president, congressmen, that all came through this process of life principles and philosophy of life. Bro, I'm with
And
you.
that speaks exactly to my point. Is I was just talking to my neighbor who's in a nursing program, and he said, I'm 40,000 in, I'm committed. And so there's so many students that get 40,000 in to chiropractic school and they're committed, but they're not really committed. You know, they're committed financially in their mind, like, okay, I have to do this now. But they might be a better researcher or a better teacher or a better public health policy changer, or they might be a great, like, kind of executive assistant to somebody like you who's really got a lot going on and needs somebody who wants to be great, but doesn't necessarily want to be in practice. And they find that out early. And then imagine having the last 2 years of chiropractic school really training somebody to be a teacher or to be a PhD candidate, so on and so forth. I just heard that at Life West, the DAC bar program has one student per year. So it's like, that's not my thing, but just knowing that that's a thing, a diplomat program, it doesn't make any sense to me that there's one student allowed to come into that program here. And I don't know any of the details. I'm just giving you an example.
Well, I think what you're saying is, it's, you know, like I've done personality assessments on people and doctors and stuff, and it's according to their personality and their assessment, you know, they should not have their hands on people. You know, they're better off out educating and like, you're nailing it. It's, you know, or this kid is better off as a DAC bar. That's helping us with the x-rays and the difficulty, but they love chiropractic, but it's, you know, they get uncomfortable putting their hands on people. It's just not for them, but they shouldn't maybe they feel awkward in school. Like I'm not, you know, they feel awkward because we're creating that space. How do we change that space? So a kid coming in and by third quarter, they say, you know what? I'm going to fall into this path within the chiropractic realm. You know, maybe I'll be a COO of a practice or a DAC bar or an educator in a practice, where like you and I have buildings with 5 chiropractors in it, but they're all doing different things and running, you know, you look at these big companies and CFO, COO, educators, marketing, all these things, but we're all on the same team, and everybody's now sharing in the pot of growth and expanding this vision. You know, to me, that's where I've matured, because I can never understand, like, why are people having problems? Why can't they just do it? Why can't you just do it? It's not their personality, you know, and they shouldn't be forced.
Mm-hmm. And just letting people know right when they get to chiropractic school, hey, if you find that you're really struggling, don't feel as though it's a dead end. Always see their light in a different direction. There's many different directions you could go. Like this nursing student that's my neighbor felt really empowered that they told him, hey, if you realize you don't want to be a nurse anymore, you could always create your own health company. You could always do a managed care company where you build a company where you go to people's houses and take care of them in their homes. And like in his mind, he's like, oh, okay, like that speaks to the entrepreneur in him. Which is not what a nursing program is really teaching you to be, but that's who he was before he got to that program. So it's like caring enough to really understand what that person is great at and helping them blossom into whatever they could potentially be, like what that potential is for that person in chiropractic school.
It's great
by starting in pre-chiro.
That's great perspective, pal. Yeah. It's beautiful.
So anyway, I appreciate you being on here, man. We could probably keep flowing, but I'm gonna respect your time. Let's end it there. if you have any final words to share, I'd love to just give you the opportunity before I end it.
Well, I think you brought up a lot of amazing points in here that, you know, people truly listen and just kind of see where they're falling in their journey with this whole thing. And you know, your vision of bringing it and hitting the younger kids, you know, it's happening on a small scale. You know, kids start getting adjusted. I have a conversation, you know, you and I could talk more about it, but we may still be like trying to find that thing, and someone could listen to this and go, hey, what about this? You know, my father has this kind of business, what he did. You never know where it's going to go. You never know who, we're all leaders in our own right, where the message is going to fall into. But if you truly want to be a chiropractor as well and you want to find your passion, you got to own you, own the principles, own the adjustment, and all else follows. And I tell every single person, get a yellow legal pad and write your vision down. Every single day, go through it, work on you, and you'll wake up 20 years from now an amazing, happy human being.